Well, Scotty's back in the win column. And have you ever wondered what it's like to qualify for a major championship? Well, our guest tonight will answer that question. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Tavern. Yeah. I think he's back to form. He fell off a little bit last year, but he also was named Ryder Cup captain. Give me 3 grand! How's everybody doing tonight?
What's happening?
I'm awake.
How's you guys not going to answer, or just?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was waiting for Dave to. I was waiting for Dave to answer, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the Pacers right now struggle with the Cavs, so I might be a little distracted.
Nice.
How was May the 4th for everybody?
May the 4th.
Being it is Revenge of the 5th.
Well, consider it's the Revenge of the 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is the 6th today.
If you knew what day it was.
Today.
Yeah. Yesterday, Cinco de Mayo. How about that?
I spent it at Hollywood Studios with my kids.
I spent it watching the Pacers beat the Cavs. So in game 1,
I have a popcorn bucket.
I have one of those.
Yeah,
I do not have one of those.
I got mine on the cruise ship.
I have a gnome.
I got too much lighting in here. Forget this thing to light up.
I got to play golf this week.
Yeah, I did too.
So,
what's golf?
Well, you know.
Yeah. I played in a simulator, and then we decided that, hey, it's nice enough outside. Let's go outside and play 9 holes on top of it. So,
yeah.
I played the Magnolia at Disney.
Grumpy's
Gauntlet.
Gauntlet?
Again.
I was going to say Grumpy's Revenge. I don't know why I was going to call it Grumpy's Revenge.
No, Grumpy's Gauntlet. It was in great shape. What's up, Ush? Yeah, it's in like perfect shape right now. Their greens are unbelievable.
Well, I mean, they put that much time into redoing that, which is really nice. I'd hope it would be in great shape.
Yep.
So, and they usually keep in great shape. I've never had a problem with that course. In all the years
I still say the Gauntlet it's a good test of golf.
Now, do you think that, I mean, they had to do this for traffic reasons actually down there is why this started. Do you think these new holes are at least equal to or better than what they had?
Better?
Okay.
Better.
Because I like those finishing holes.
Not even close. 14, making 14 a long par 4 was a smart move on their. I'll be honest with you. It's my least favorite hole of the group, but it's a great hole. 15 and 16 are. 15's a great par 5. 16 is a amazing par 4. And then you get to 17, and I mean they can stretch that to 235 with water down the entire right-hand side to a green that is, Greg, you and I could stand on our shoulders and we wouldn't hit the top of that green sitting at the low point.
Nice.
So yeah, it's awesome.
Right.
So that's an 8 for Dave.
Dave, I'd say it's almost like when we played the Brickyard here, number 7 at the Brickyard. Where you're just 100 feet above the hole if you don't hit the green, or below the hole if you don't hit the green. So
there's a couple of great pins on that green for Greenskeeper's Revenge.
Okay,
I'll just leave it at that.
I don't think have we ever seen Disney do a Greenskeeper's Revenge?
No, and I really kind of want them to one day and to like do a scramble for it. I think it would be awesome.
I think when they used to do the cast scrambles out there, that would have been a fun way to do one of the cast scrambles. Yeah, is do a Grumpy's.
That would have been a great cast.
Call it Grumpy's Revenge. Like even if you want to do that, right. like I was saying before, there you go. So
yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into the first round.
Ready to take your game to the next level? Desert Fox Golf's collegiate gear is growing fast, with over 25 universities and counting. Show off your favorite team on the course with the Phone Caddy and DJ 10 speaker. built for easy access for every round. Perfect for students, alumni, and college sports fans looking to show off their school spirit. Gear up today at desertfoxgolf.com.
Well, I will say they have my alma mater on there, and they have our guest's alma mater on there as well. So
they do have our guest alma mater on there as well tonight. We will get into that during happy hour.
But for 15% off, check out Desert Fox Golf and use code GolfingDads to get 15% off your first order.
And you can stack it if they're doing another discount. You can stack it on top of it. Just leave it at that. It's a good deal.
So stuff's already on sale right now. So just saying, if you need your NCAA speaker phone caddy, go check them out.
Good job,
Ush.
Oh,
there we go.
Ush got his Good call on that, Ush. Nice. The race for second place this weekend.
It's the best way to call it. Yeah.
Like any golf tournament where you shoot 22, 26 under, you think you're probably going to win it.
4 rounds in the 60s and you lose by 8.
Yeah.
What is that? I get it's a home game for Scotty.
But we haven't seen a dominating performance like that since Tiger.
No, we have Rory's done it in 2011, I think. And who else? There was one other one that's done it recently. But you don't see that kind of dominance, and you haven't seen that kind of dominance like Scotty had last year and what he did this year since Tiger, which is fun.
So, Greg, I'm glad you brought that up because there were some comments made earlier in the year, not that we're that far into the year, as it's just May 6th, from a certain member of the Live Tour that may or may not have said that Scotty was not going to win before the Ryder Cup this year.
So, and you and I talked about this, and I think this is what is wrong with kind of Team USA, with the Live out there, is Phil Mickelson made the comments that does he think Scotty is going to win before the Ryder Cup at Bethpage, and he said, I think not.
No, he put it on X. He put it there for all.
That's what I'm saying. He put it out. He put it out there. This was a statement he made, and we've all talked about on here the Ryder Cup. The reason Europe is so good at the Ryder Cup is because of their unity, their teamwork, and the way that they approach it with everybody. They're trying to lift everybody up. Yep. Where if you are a former Ryder Cup captain, not
player,
captain, but former I'm trying to say all-star, really, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You should be there pumping this team up, rooting this team on. I don't care if you play on Live. I don't care if you play on the PGA Tour. Nope. When it comes to the Ryder Cup, it's Team USA. So you should not be making comments like this out there. Even if you thought that, that's not what you put out there. But
no,
Scotty proved you wrong in grand fashion.
And oh, by the way, there was an announcement made today that there will be a dinner next week at the PGA Championship for all potential players for the Ryder Cup, and Bryson and Brooks have both been invited.
Hey, I think they should be on the team. Correct. I think we need to not have this pettiness between the two tours that was out there. That it seems to be fading, but
I don't know that it's not coming back after Rory's comments about the fact that the tour just needs to go their own way and not do this now.
Well, that's fine. I think the pettiness needs to go away. You can have two tours and go your own way. I think it's that you don't need to be attacking each other for no reason out there. Just like I think Phil, because of these comments, should have nothing to do with the Ryder Cup anymore. And that's a shame because of how well he's done in the Ryder Cup. Yep. And just this pettiness doesn't need to be around there. So, it's
I was thinking, Greg, as you were saying that I wish we had a bigger budget for this show, and that we could have had a little "Go Your Own Way" music playing in the background.
So our budget now is 0. So it would be a little bit more than that.
We need a bigger budget for that.
So, this weekend, I mean, we got to watch amazing golf. Amazing golf.
Yeah.
And I loved the photo of young Scotty with Mr. Nelson, and then the photo of him winning with Mrs. Nelson.
Yeah.
No, and you know what? you can say what you want about Scotty's performance last year and whether or not guys going to live contributed to him winning more. Obviously, he hurt himself over the holiday. I think we're at a point where the Scotty Redemption Tour, I think, is going to come back. And I don't know if you saw it. And I say redemption because I feel like, and I don't want to give segue into our next guest, but I feel like he's going to be on a mission at the PGA Championship after his arrest last year.
It was 2 years ago.
No, his arrest was last year.
2 years ago, buddy. Hey, get your facts straight. It was 2 years ago because it was not in Louisville last year. Wasn't it 2 years ago?
No, it was last year.
Oh, it was last year?
Yeah,
it was last year.
May 17th, 2024. Okay. Just want to make sure.
I thought there was another one in between there. So
no, because remember the Halloween costumes for this year from some of our friends out there were the Scotty jumpsuit and.
That's right.
But yeah, it's. I think Scotty's found the gas pedal again. I think he's healthy. He's got his foot on the gas, and there's really not much to get in his way right now until Rory shows up.
Well, and here's the thing. When you look at this and you look at this dominant performance and you say, oh, if the live players were there, it would be different. No, he's going to shoot the same thing, and they're not shooting 31 under.
No, they're not.
No. I'm just saying that. That's not going to happen. Like, you had to have been on the number one player's A game. That's what this was.
Correct.
The only mistake he made all week was his tee shot on 17 on Sunday. Like, it's the only big mistake I think he made.
Yeah. Now he could have picked his ball up, put it in his pocket, taken a couple drops, and
it's a
he missed he missed this tournament last year, and I think he really enjoys playing. He missed this tournament for the birth of his son last year, and that's kind of an obvious thing to do. And I just think that he loves this tournament. Everybody's got that one, home game type course that they love to play on. And for Scotty and Jordan, this is it.
Well, with that, I feel like we need to transition into happy hour right now, only because it's going to be a really great happy hour, and I'm really excited about it. So
let's get into it.
So last week, the PGA Club Professional Championship concluded at the PGA Village in Port St. Lucie, Florida. The top 20 club professionals there automatically qualify for the PGA Championship next week at Quail Hollow Golf Club in Charlotte, North Carolina. Our guest tonight will be at Quail Hollow, not as a spectator, but he's going to be competing alongside Scotty Scheffler, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Bryson DeChambeau, and the rest of the tour players. So please give a warm Tavern welcome to Ryan Lenahan, PGA member. Ryan, how are you tonight? Thank you for joining us.
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, I've been looking forward to this since I sent you a DM last week and said we want to do this. And I sent it, and I texted Dave and Greg, and I was like, we may have a whale next week. This is going to be awesome, and I'm so excited about this. So
we talked, and I said 100%, let's make this happen. So thank you so much, Ryan, for
no
taking
problem,
time
guys.
to be here.
Yep, thanks.
So, Ryan, I want to give credit because obviously being a PGA member, there's a lot that goes into being a PGA member. But I want to know and let our viewers know, what section are you with and where are you a club professional?
Yeah, so I'm actually just took a new job in March, which made this journey even more interesting. But I'm the director of instruction at Walnut Creek Country Club in South Lyon, Michigan, which is just outside of Detroit. And that's obviously in the Michigan PGA section.
Nice. That's awesome. I get up to Detroit. I'll probably be up there September, October timeframe.
That's a good time.
Yeah, I usually get out. I'm a mortgage broker by day, so we get up to UWM and Auburn Hills when we're up there. So
Anytime after that gets a little dicey, but
I have a strict no-fly zone in the wintertime up there. I grew up in New England, and if there's going to be snow, I'm not coming. So
usually October you're pretty safe, but you never know up there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So Ryan, I'm down here. I'm in Southeast Iowa, so I'm right down the road from you, basically. Taking this new job. So Michigan, there's probably, like Steve, we get the weather here. I saw 80 on Monday one week in January, and it was, 30, by Wednesday. How do you keep your game sharp in the off season with, this type of fluctuation that we get here in the Midwest?
Yeah. I'd say usually I shut it down around the holidays, to be honest with you. I kind of, I get kind of burnt out a little bit towards the end of the fall. And this year was a little unique. I had some guys that played a pro-am or that wanted to play a pro-am out in California in November. And I was kind of just starting to say, you know what, I'm going to kind of put the clubs away, put them in the basement, whatnot. And they asked me to play. So I said, I'll play. And then all of a sudden in early January, I went to Arizona. And so I'm like, I'm actually really not taking much of a break, but like years past, I've taken a huge break and, just kind of picked it back up in February, March, maybe try to go to a simulator, do whatever. The old place that I used to teach at was an indoor facility that would hit out onto the range. So that was kind of nice just because when I was teaching at night, I could go practice, do whatever, maybe during the day if I had a break. I actually did teach quite a bit during the wintertime, which is kind of surprising when, there's a lot of snowfall up here. But then once I changed jobs, that was no longer really an option. And the facility I had was in the process of getting a TrackMan simulator or 2 TrackMan simulators, and all they had was a net. So the last few weeks up until, going down to Florida, I was hitting into a net. I was trying to find some, places outside that I could see the ball flight, hit golf shots, whatever. I did travel in March. I went for a few days down to Atlanta. And then in February, I went to Atlanta as well, just to try to escape. But it is certainly challenging up here when you have to pretty much play your biggest event of the year in April, and getting ready for that is, I think I have some gray hairs after all that.
Hey, did you come down to Orlando for the PGA show or no?
I came down, it was the Thursday of the show, and I was actually going to go on Friday, and then I got a last minute call. I was actually down there for a pro-am that I was going to play that started on Saturday of that week. I don't know if you guys were all down there, but the weather was so bad. I flew in and it was 36. And I went to the airport from Detroit. It was minus 10-degree wind chill here. And I'm like, and I saw the weather wasn't great in Florida, but I was trying to escape the cold, and I went down there, and it felt like, just any other January, February day, up here or whatever. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just south of you in Indiana, and we went down, and it was just terrible weather that week. Like we were at demo day in the rain. You can see in our intro, there's a video of me slipping on the driving range.
Those two guys were inside.
Yeah.
I was actually out playing golf in that all week.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you think of Florida that you're gonna, somewhat, to see warmth, but not. And it's funny because I went down there that Thursday. It was, as you guys know, it was freezing. And then I left. Our pro-am ended on a Monday, and of course that day it was like 82. And I'm like, where was this the whole time?
Yep.
Tried to soak it in while it was there, but I had about a day or two in it, and then I was back in the tundra.
Yeah.
So Ryan, you're a PGA professional now. You went to school at Nebraska. You're a Cornhusker. When did you first fall in love with the game of golf? Like, we all have kids. We're golfing dads. So when did you first fall in love with the game?
Pretty early on. My dad is actually like a golf collector. I mean, you could almost say he's a historian. He is, it like literally takes it to a whole nother level. I mean, probably, if I had to guess, thousands and thousands of collectibles, golf books, all of this. I mean, I feel like when I was a kid, somebody from the post office or whoever, UPS, whatever, was at our house like 3 times a day. They probably got sick of going to our house. But at a really young age, I mean, I want to say maybe, 5, 6 or so, I played a ton or played a lot and got into it. And my grandpa, he was he was my best friend. He's no longer with us, but he, you know, playing with my dad and my grandpa and all those, you know, memories as a kid, you know, just really kind of grew me into the game. And, I played other sports growing up, and I played hockey and baseball. And then, you know, finally in high school, I decided to kind of quit the other sports, and focus on golf. But, yeah, I mean, it's pretty safe to say I had the golf bug at a pretty young age. And, now I think my wife would say that I'm pretty much obsessed with the game, and I think I've been obsessed with it for quite some time. But yeah, I mean, early on, I just remember having like, you know, the Fisher Price golf clubs and hitting wiffle balls. And, you know, now it's, you know, it's kind of neat because I have 3 kids, and I can kind of see that, you know, them doing the same thing, and them kind of getting the golf bug as well.
Nice. So as a Cornhusker, are you a football fan too?
Oh, die hard.
So I got to ask, because I went to Penn State. Your coach is a former alumnus of my university. Do you think Rule's going to do a good job this year?
You know, I think he is. We'll see. I mean, I know we did a lot of portal stuff, and, you know, it's hard to keep up with all that. But, you know, I joke with people up until recently. I mean, when you root for Nebraska on Saturdays, and then up until within the last couple of years, you were a Lions fan. I mean, Saturdays and Sundays were shot up here. I mean, it was. I think
Plus, you got to deal with Michigan fans up there. So
yeah, that's true. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Well, and where I taught previously too was in Ann Arbor. So yeah, it was always just Michigan this, Michigan that, and all that. And you know, it was, I don't know, just one of those things where we'll see if Rule can get it back together. But it's at this point, it's like you got to kind of go out there and perform, because every year in the offseason they try to sell it and say we're going to be good, and then here we are, and, you know, we start off like 3-6 or, you know, whatever, something ridiculous.
I'll say this as a UCF fan: thank you for Scott Frost back.
Yeah, wow, I didn't see it going that route with it.
I didn't either. So
yeah,
I did not see that happening. So
yeah, you know, and I won't get into the way that Iowa feels about Nebraska.
Oh, so. I know. Yeah. When you said Southeast Iowa, the first thing I thought it was, we have a Hawkeye here. So possibly.
Well, here's the thing. Penn State. I grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania. I'm originally from there. So Penn State boy marries Iowa Hawkeye.
Got it.
So yeah, I'm here by transplant only. But. So speaking of that, you know, we've all done it as dads, and we see it with our kids now. You know, you practice the game-winning grand slam, or, you know, throwing that touchdown, and, you know, you said your kids are playing. Do you see it through their eyes when they're on the putting green? Are they dreaming of making that winning putt one day? And did you have those same feelings, you know, growing up? Are you putting for the win on the Masters, or?
Yeah, as a kid, I mean, yeah, I mean, I would literally spend all day at the golf course. I mean, it was almost like a problem. I feel like, I mean, I spent more time there than I did my house, or, you know, whatever, my parents' house growing up. But yeah, I mean, whatever major was going on, it was always like I couldn't leave until I made that putt, like you said. And you know, sometimes with the Masters, our courses weren't open yet, so I couldn't really envision that putt outside. Maybe sometimes in the basement, putting to a glass jar or something like that. But you know, for the U.S. Open, the Open Championship, PGA, all of that, like whatever major was going on, of course, it was always to make that final putt, put pressure on, try to do it, have those dreams. And with my kids, yeah, it's, you know, I can see them kind of doing the same thing. I think their main thing is trying to beat their dad and, you know, make a putt if I miss one, and have the bragging rights. But, you know, they're getting to the age where they're kind of getting into the bug, and you know, it's the tournament thing is something that is definitely, I think, in their future, because one of them came up to me just recently and said, my middle child said, you know, I want you to sign me up for some tournaments. And you know, I'm sitting there like, this is great, you know, now I can maybe caddy or do something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my young son last year started taking lessons, so I get it.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to ask, is the whole family going to Charlotte with you?
We are all going.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yep. Yeah. We actually, awesome. I lived in Charlotte for 5-6 years, and I actually lived about a mile from Quail, which, you this is coming full circle. It's crazy. And last year we actually went back to Charlotte during my kids' spring break just to take them, because 2 of my 3 kids were born there. And we took them there, just wanted to visit. It was our first time being there since we had moved back to Michigan. And I vividly remember the last day leaving, and it was Easter Sunday. Actually, we had to drive back to Michigan, and I thought to myself, this would be unbelievable to come back here and play in the PGA, because we actually drove by Quail on Easter morning, and I just thought to myself, this would be incredible. I have some friends there. I have a lot of people that I had met during my time living there, and I'm still pinching myself.
That's awesome. Were you a pro out there in Charlotte?
Actually, so I was playing full time at the time.
Nice.
So I was living down there, and during my career, my wife had taken a job down there. We're both from Michigan, and she took a job down there in 2013. And so we moved down there. I was engaged. We were engaged at the time, and yeah, so we were there for about 6 years, and then came back. But I knew that going back to Michigan, my playing days were probably over, and I was I was at terms with that. But I knew that become instead of being year round, the season would be a little shorter up here. So that's kind of when I stopped playing, as we moved back.
Nice. What course did you play out of Charlotte?
Oh, this is a long story, but I'll try to shorten it for you. I was at the post office one day, about maybe 2-3 miles from Quail Hollow. And I was wearing a shirt, and it had an insurance logo on it. And the guy behind me goes, "Are you going to play golf?" And I told him I was. And I told him the course that I was going to, which was about 30 minutes north of Charlotte. It's called Northstone Country Club in Huntersville. And I told him I was going up there. And he's like, "What are you doing going up there?" And I said, "Well, that's just where I play and practice." And he goes, "Well, we let pros come to our course to play and practice at Charlotte Country Club." And I kind of just thought it was one of those things where he's, it's like a courtesy every once in a while, where you can go out there and play. And it turns out they actually did have a program, and I had to go through like a board approval, and it was actually like an 8 to 9 month process. The head pro at the time was great. He was kind of helping me through it. A spot had just opened up when I had met this member at the post office. And so I was able to play and practice at Charlotte Country Club, which was, probably one of the better facilities I've ever been at. It was incredible. It was the practice facility. That was one of the hardest things to do, was when we decided to move back to Michigan, was to leave that facility, because I had it was so good down there. It was hard to leave. That's for sure.
Are you going to stop by and thank the pro and say hi to everybody while you're there next week?
It's funny. He's no longer there, but the guy on the Golf Channel last week that was doing the broadcast was like very close friends with them. So he introduced himself to me last week. He's like, "Oh, I got to take a picture." And he sent it to the head pro. And he's like, "You got to be kidding me. Like, you just ran into Ryan and all this stuff." And it was just kind of funny, because, here's the guy from the Golf Channel. I just met him last week. And then all of a sudden he knew the pro that I dealt with when I got into the course and stuff. Awesome. And it's kind of small world kind of moment.
That's funny, because one of our buddies that Dave and I were good friends with, also from Pennsylvania, that we worked in Florida with, he's a pro out in Pittsburgh, and you played in one of his events. His name's Bob Gillespie.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, tell him I said hi. He's a great guy.
He might be watching tonight. And funny enough, he got me on in Charlotte at Firethorn Country Club out there one time. I got to play out there because a buddy of mine lives in Charlotte now too. So
okay, yeah,
a lot of connections there.
He used to work for the Tri-State, I think. The Tri-State.
Yeah,
PGA.
He did. He worked for the.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly what he worked for. Now he works for Topgolf. So.
Yep. No, yeah, he was a great guy. So I enjoyed seeing him every year when I played in that event.
No, that's good. All right. So speaking of playing in different events and kind of qualifying for a country club, was this your first attempt to qualify, or have you tried to qualify for events like this or majors in the past?
So yeah, so in for the PGA Professional Championship, this was my first year. You have to be a PGA member in order to be eligible, and I got my membership, and I honestly tried to expedite it. They give you 9 years to finish the program, and I did it about 2.5-ish. With literally the thought of Quail in the back of my mind, because it had so much meaning to me of why, I lived there, or, when I lived there and everything. So, I was part of the process is you get elected at the first of every month if you complete all your coursework and you passed it and passed the exams, all that. And so, I luckily got it all done. I got it June 1st was when I got my membership, and that allowed me to play in my section championship last summer, which qualified me for last week at PGA Village, for the PGA Professional Championship. But in terms of like other majors and things that, I do US Open qualifying. I do Monday qualifiers. I mean, the US Open qualifying, that's when it was 2013. I went into a playoff, and it was actually kind of interesting. I did my local qualifier, and it was my first tournament in 9 months. And 2 weeks after, I had sectionals, and that was technically my second event in 9 months. And I had a kind of a ho-hum first round. I shot 72, and then I vividly remember this. I don't know why, but on the second tee in the afternoon, I was yawning, and I was like, "Gosh, I'm really tired," and like I got to go out and play another, 18, and I got to kind of, I was so far behind at that point, and I started making a bunch of birdies on the front nine, and I shoot 31. And I think I shot 34 on the back. And it was a little bittersweet because on the last hole, I was playing at Springfield Country Club in Springfield, which was kind of like the feeder site to the Columbus site where all the tour guys are. But there were actually some tour guys at my site. And if anybody's ever played there, there's like a back pin location on a shelf, and it's a very small shelf. It's hard to, it's not very accessible. Let's put it that way. And so the green is elevated, and our scorekeeper was up on a hill, and I hit my shot, and I hit it right at it. Obviously, I'm nervous. I know I have a chance to get into the U.S. Open, everything like that. I hit right at the flag. And I looked at him because I knew he had a view of the green, and he goes, "You hit it to a foot." And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I got goosebumps. I told my dad, he's like, "What do you say?" And I go, "It went to a foot." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I got a tap in." And so I'm walking up there, and I don't see anything, and I'm like, all right, this is kind of odd. And long story short, my ball didn't land. I mean, it was probably less than a foot, but it spun all the way down to the front of the green. I had like a 60-footer. And I'm sitting there, and I was like, okay, well, now I got to regroup, because here I was thinking I had tap in. And I basically had to make birdie to get in. And I hit my putt. I had to be aggressive. I hit it like 5 feet by. I was playing with a guy from Ohio State, and he had the same putt on the same line as the second putt. And he hit it, and it went like 15 feet down this hill. And I was like, oh boy, I don't want to see that. So you had to putt pretty defensively, and you can't get above the hole, but I had to give my first putt a chance to go in. So I hit my putt. I barely hit it, and it caught the high side of the hole, and actually probably went about 4 feet away, and I had to make that. So I went from thinking I had a tap in to shoot 63 in the afternoon to 3-putting and shooting 65. And then I had to wait. Of course, once the groups all finish, I go to a playoff. And in the playoff, both guys, I hit, I believe first, and I hit it down the fairway. And both guys I played with hit it dead left, and they were in the trees. And one guy chipped out short of the green. One guy hit it over the trees and caught a flyer and went over the green. And the guy in the front of the green hits his chip shot. And I mean, on the last rotation, it was like Tiger at 16 at Augusta. It was like the last rotation, it dies right in the center of the hole and goes in. And I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I was like, that makes this putt a little bit harder. So the guy that was over the green hits his chip shot. And if you ever hit a chip shot, sometimes if they come out hot or kind of like a heater, that's what this did. And it hit the green, hit the middle of the pin, and fell straight into the hole. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, both guys literally just chipped in on me. I'm 10 feet. The hole feels like the size of a loose impediment right now. And, wow. I was like stunned, and I knew exactly what the putt did, but I read it again just to calm my heart rate, just to calm down, because my heart was beating so fast. And I luckily made the putt. And long story, well, I mean, I guess this has been a long story, but few holes later, I made par. One guy made birdie. I made bogey, or the other guy made bogey. So I got first alternate. And so that's why, for last week, it had so much meaning. I had to sit on that for quite some time, and it bothered me. I mean, you're so close to a major, you don't know how many opportunities or chances you'll get. And it irked me, and I never thought that maybe I would ever have a chance again. And made me question a lot of things, and made me think of that moment going back to it, like, what could I have done to do better? I mean, when you shoot the number that gets in, I mean, obviously I lose in a playoff, but like I shot the same score that got in. I watched the guy tee off that I went into a playoff with the year it was at Marion. And all I could, I mean, it entered my mind a lot. I would be lying to you if I said I didn't think about it. It was on my mind quite often.
Wow.
So I have a funny story, not as cool as yours, but in 2013, somebody else on this podcast actually carried my golf bag for 18 holes for local qualifying for the U.S. Open. It was my first tournament as a professional. Dave carried my golf bag. My day did not go as well as yours did, and I will tell you that.
What'd you shoot?
We should have quit it. We should have quit.
What'd you shoot, Steve? Did you turn in a scorecard?
I did not turn in my card. I no carded.
We got up to one of the tee boxes, and the parking lot was next to it, and I just pointed at the parking lot, and I'm like, we should just go.
We give Steve a hard time.
These are my friends.
Yeah.
You make it through into a playoff on the longest day in golf. And, that day, and everyone's heard the stories about that day, and it's just not a fun day anyway. And you make it through, and you get into this playoff, and you shoot 65, which, funny enough, was the same score you shot in round 3 last week. Which is what I was thinking as you were telling that story. When you look back now, like, how heartbreaking, like I know after my day, I almost gave up the game of golf after playing as bad as I did. I shot 1 under the day before in a practice round and went out the next day and no carded. Like, how heartbreaking was that going through that?
At the time I was kind of, it was such a long day, as you said. I mean, we went 40 holes that day and finished basically at dark. And I remember going to dinner with my parents were down there. My wife actually caddied for me, similar to what she did last week. And I remember getting to my room because I was going to go back home the next day. And I remember on the Golf Channel, the coverage, I was watching it, and it said my name is second alternate. And I remember my wife being like, "Wow, that's really cool. Your name's on there." And my first impression was like, I was kind of ticked. And I understood what she meant, but I was mad at myself for not getting the job done because, you just never know how many opportunities like that come around. And, I think it's no breeze to get through local qualifying. You got to play good to get through locals. And then you got to go to sectionals and play really good against a lot of really talented players. And, I remember it irked me. And, especially with the drought, that I had as I look back on everything. I mean, when I quit playing professional golf, I thought that playing in a major was never going to happen for me. And, I just never thought that I would be in this position. And, I think that's the neat thing is that last week, that final round, I was ready to go. I knew what it felt like to miss out. And, to be honest with you, I was not going to let anything get in my way to get through. And I was so determined. I was so focused. I had some mishaps the final round that, I don't know if you guys want me to get into or not. I'm irritated.
I'll be we talked after round 3. I sent you the DM after round 3, and believe me, during round 4, I kept pulling up your score to see where you were at because I was like, "Where's he at? Where's he at? I want to know where he's at." So
yeah.
I kept looking.
And it was, I mean, the first 4 holes was blowing about 25 dead into left to right. So for the right-handed golfer, I mean, it's not ideal. And it was playing hard. And I mean, with the pressure and everything, I mean, it was a test. And I think I aged about 30, 40 years that final round, especially what happened on the 10th hole. But I'm relieved to know that here I am and I was able to get through.
So I was going to ask you that because Steve and I were both following you on Sunday, and we're following basically on the website, watching your scores go on there. Can Can you talk about what did happen on the 10th hole? Because I saw that did you have a penalty on there, or was it okay? Because I was only reading and it just said PP, and I was like, okay, was this? So what happened on the 10th hole there? If you don't mind talking about it.
No, I don't mind. I've a lot of people needled me for this one, and I hit an iron off 10, and one of the guys in my group hit 3-wood, and we hit on the exact same line. I was playing a Titleist 3 with a red dot. He was playing a Titleist 3 with a black dot. So I got a banana and water after I teed off, and I was kind of lagging behind a little bit. Nick, who I had played with, was up ahead of me, and he was kind of just walking along and kind of ahead of me to my right and everything. So we assumed the short ball was my ball. And I actually have red-green color blindness. So, I mean, I can see colors, but, it's like from far away, it's hard to kind of decipher between red and black. Is a great example. And we get up there, and there was a ball that was like 25 yards ahead of the other. So we assumed the guy that hit the 3-wood was his. And so I go and play the shot, and I saw a Titleist 3. I saw a dot on it. It was in the exact same position that Nick had put his dot on, or where he placed his dot. And I hit my shot, and I'm going up there and just kind of thinking about what I need to do for my next play. And he's like, Ryan, he's like, this isn't my ball. And as soon as he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, like I've never done this in my entire life. And I didn't really play as good as I would have. I made some very uncharacteristic mistakes, my first round, or I'm sorry, my first 9. And I was a little frustrated by that. And, I felt like I was kind of just not as sharp as I should have been. And when that happened, I was stunned. I couldn't believe it. Here it is. You have a moment to get into a major. My first thought was, oh my gosh, I hope this isn't on TV. And because I would not hear the end of it from my buddies. And yeah, it was, I was shocked. And it took me, I kind of took a second and regrouped, and I'm a pretty composed player. I don't show much emotion on the course at all. And I try to stay even keel. And I would say that during that span, I kind of had a talk with myself as all this was going on. And I said, at the beginning of the week, if you said that you had 8 holes left after this and you had a chance to qualify for a major, whether you're, one outside the number, one inside the number, or you're on the number, whatever it is, I would have taken that. And I kind of had to just shift my focus and change my perspective on things. I was, I wouldn't say comfortably, but I was, inside the number at that time. And when I made the double and made that terrible blunder, which I've never done, it was a challenge. I had to overcome some adversity, that's for sure. And the next hole was a par 3. It was they said on TV coverage it was playing the hardest holes on the course, and I believe it. It was really hard pin, dead into the wind. I can't remember what I had hit off the tee, but I was trying to hit it in the middle of the green, but the guy before me hit it right at the stick, and he probably hit it 2 feet away. And I'm not kidding, guys, it went in the water. And I was shocked. I saw that, and I'm like, how does the ball and it looked like it stayed. It was stopped, and it kept trickling. The wind got it, and it went in the water. So I'm even in the middle of the green. I kind of pushed it, and I literally hit my shot to a couple inches. I literally, as he was dropping his ball, I just went up, tapped it in, and waited. And that kind of helped ease the nerves a little bit, because I looked at it. I'm like, okay, it's almost like I just bogeyed 10 in part 11 almost, and I kind of had to regroup and just, I figured any birdie on the back 9 was huge. And but I definitely, that was a mental test. That is for sure, because I was absolutely shocked at that point.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I have to tell you, it was. It's unbelievable that, like, you go through something like that and make a mistake, but that you kept your composure, like you said. You came back from that, and it's a testament to everyone who plays this game. You can't let something like that stop you, and then you just turned it around and were able to keep it through that. I think that's going to be a great mental test for you going into next week. So
yeah, it's I'm used to overcoming adversity in my life. I'm type 1 diabetic, and I've learned how to play golf and managing blood sugar levels, which is not easy. And for me, it's all over the place. It's a roller coaster. I've had clubs lost for Q school before for my biggest event of the year. I mean, there was a year where I was working with Butch Harmon on my golf swing, and spent a whole year investing money working with my swing with him. And I lost my golf clubs for European Q school and US Q school. And when I went over to Europe, they lost my replacement set of clubs. And this all happened within a 10-day time frame. And I think that if there's any, when I kind of reflect or look back on what happened on 10 last week, it's overcoming the adversity, and just my experience played a huge factor. My younger self, I don't know if I would have been able to overcome that, but here at 40 years old, I tried to zone in, and I kind of reached a fork in the road. I said, you can either go one way and this will snowball and get ugly, or I can, keep chipping away and keep plugging away. And anybody that knows me knows that, I'm ultra competitive, and I'm lucky to go down the road of just hanging in there and competing.
Now you say that competing, and I don't want to harp on this thing on 10 here, but is it different pressure on yourself, or pressure coming from that you're playing against all your other peers that are out there trying to do what you're doing, knowing that there's a spot on the line at the PGA Championship?
Yeah, having this year be my first year, I had no idea what to expect. And, I've only played against guys in the PGA at the section level in Michigan. It really hasn't been any other opportunities where I've played against anybody, nationwide, or 312 people of the, PGA members. And so I wasn't really sure what to expect. I tried to lean on my experience, and I know that, if I'm playing well, that, I can perform well or finish well. But it's one of those things where I did think timing of the year, I was really concerned about that. I'm not going to lie. I thought April, I was so far behind the 8 ball. I felt so out of place. Some of the shots I was hitting leading up to the tournament, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so rusty. This is not good. And, all of that. We had snow during Masters Week here. And, I'm supposed to prepare for an event 2 weeks later, and it wasn't easy. I literally looked online, booked an indoor simulator for 2 straight days, and hit balls for 2 hours each day, just playing in a simulator because everything was shut down here. There was snow. And, but going back to what you said, Dave, it's just, it's fun. I didn't know. I knew I was behind the 8 ball because a lot of these guys, that have qualified over the years are from the South and warm climates. When it's in April, you're kind of at a disadvantage. And having it be my first time, I wasn't really sure what to expect from others. But it was one of those things where I was like, let's just try to play good golf and see what happens. And my first round, I played the easiest of the course. I only played it 1 round, but I played awful. I was so rusty, and I needed to take advantage of it, and I didn't. And I thought I was in trouble. I finished round 1. When I signed my card, I was in 170th place. And, it was one of those things where, it just, I knew I kind of had a tough uphill battle from there, but, it was nice to at least kind of see where I measure up against other, PGA members through the country and everything.
Now, you talk about it, you were in 170th place after round 1. And by the end of round 3, you were sitting comfortably inside the top 20, inside the top 10 even at that point. As you got through round 3, was round 3 one of those moments where you kind of felt like you were in the zone? You went bogey free to shoot 65. Was that just one of those, moments where you just felt like everything just clicked and everything just was perfect?
It's odd. When I explained my story at sectionals, the second round, I yawned on the first tee. I was so tired, and I went out and played really well. And I'm wondering if there's something to this, because you'll see where I'm going here. When I finished round 2, it was 7:45 at night, and my kids were down there. I was with my wife. My parents were there. we were eating dinner at 9:30 and I got a text. I made the cut by 2. I got a text saying I was teeing off at 7:41. And my first reaction was like, how am I this early? I'm 2 inside the number. I was kind of thinking like maybe 10 or 11 a.m. or something, you know, was the start time. So I didn't get to bed till, left a restaurant at 10 o'clock. I had to get the kids ready. I didn't go to bed till after 11, and my alarm the next morning was at 5. And so I remember being on the tee round 3 and being exhausted. And it was one of those moments where I just, I opened with a birdie and I was kind of focused. And I'll be honest, Steve, it was one of those situations where, I knew there was a third cut, which is very unusual. You don't have many events where not a third cut, there's a second cut, but it was a cut after the third round. And I was trying to just get to the last day. And then all of a sudden things kind of started to, pick up a little bit in terms of my round, and I was making birdies and everything. And yeah, I down the stretch. I mean, I was so laser focused and I had tunnel vision, and it's hard to kind of get in that all the time, I feel like, but as I finished, I hit so many, I hit so many quality shots, and I felt the pressure, and I hit quality shot after quality shot. And, I just kept giving myself chances, and I felt like I kind of stalled a little bit in the early part of my back nine, the third round. And it was funny because the cameras were following me. So I kind of figured that, like, when the coverage came on later, they were trying to get some highlights and they couldn't because I kept making pars. And so finally I made a birdie and the camera guy went away. And I was like, first thing I thought of was like, he probably just wanted to see me make a birdie. So when coverage comes on, they can go back to, showing the birdie I made. And sure enough, it was the putt that I made. That's what they showed when I was on 15 during round 3. But yeah, I got done, and I even felt like I was zoned in after I got done. It took me like a hour or two just to kind of like mellow out and kind of realize what was happening, because I was so focused. But then everything shifted to, now I got to get ready for the next day, and I knew how important it was. And day 3 was a whirlwind, and it was something where I didn't want to lose focus. That's for sure.
So after your round, you posted on Facebook that you had to do some interviews with the Golf Channel and Sirius XM Radio. Now, while they're not quite as cool as the Golfing Dads Tavern, what's that like when you go through these rounds, you're doing that, and then you got to go talk to the media right after the round?
It was interesting. I got done round 3 at about 12:30, 12:45, and I ran into the Golf Channel and somebody from the PGA media that said, "Can you stay here till 3?" And the night before, I told my kids, like, "Oh, well, the good thing is with an early tee time, I'll be back and I'll play with you guys in the afternoon, and we'll figure out something to do and everything." And then I thought, well, shoot, now what am I going to do here for like 2.5 hours, just kind of waiting? And my wife, of course, wanted to get back to where we were staying and everything. And so it was interesting just because I just waited. And but it was a really cool moment. I mean, being interviewed by Amy Rogers, I've watched this tournament for a long time. Even my playing days, I loved watching it because there was people I knew, and I got to see some friends that have qualified and have done well in this event or in that event. And I always tuned in, and it was kind of surreal for me to be one of those people that all of a sudden was being interviewed. And it was one of those things where I stuck around the course. I waited till 3, and then they told me, "Okay, you're going to be on at 3:20." And I said, "Okay, I'll wait for 3:20." And I got done and came back, and I felt terrible for my kids because I got back at like 5, and I said, "All right, well, I got to do one more thing on the radio, and then we pretty much have to go to dinner." So I had no play time with them, and I felt terrible about it. But it was, at the end of the day, I said to my wife, I said, this seemed like a whirlwind. I mean, and not in a bad way. It was just one thing kind of after another. People were texting me and calling me, and but at the same time, I had to be focused. I mean, the job was not done. And I remember posting on Facebook, I said, it was a great round, but this isn't anything to celebrate just yet, because this tournament isn't over yet.
Yeah. So now you wake up the morning of round 4, you've had all that, you have the dad guilt, I know we've all felt the dad guilt, and I'm pretty sure, as a professional with what was at stake there, your dad guilt was probably kicking in. How do you keep the nerves away going into round 4 to do all that?
Oh, yeah. I teed off at 12:30, and I'll be honest, guys, I don't know if I've ever had a tougher morning in my golfing career. I don't know why I knew what was on the line, but I felt like I had everything to lose because I was inside the number. And I've done Q school plenty of times. I've been, close to getting the final stage before. And this was different pressure. This was just completely different to me. And I think so many things were entering my mind. I was like, you haven't been playing golf, and you haven't played a tournament in 9 months or 8 months, whatever it was. And I'm like, I kept, for some reason, my mind kept going to what happens if you don't qualify? How are you going to react? And I kept having to get that out of my head. And, I was worried about it. And it was about, I would say 9:30 on that morning. I had to leave for the course around 10:45. We were staying by the beach, and I just said to my wife, I said, I'm really sorry, but I was like, I got to go take a walk. And I walked along the beach. I'm a Christian, Christian man, and, said a few prayers, and, I just, I was a wreck. I really was. I was so nervous. And, it calmed me. I think it was the hardest thing. It's like, if you give a speech or give a presentation, it's the buildup that's so hard. And it was the lead up and build up for this that made this so difficult. And when I got on the course, I felt so much better. Especially, I birdied the first hole, and I was like, you idiot. I was like, all this stress and stuff you were putting yourself through, and then you birdied the first hole. It's like, just go out and do what you do. But it was tough that morning. I can't recall a tougher, I do my first mini tour event that I had won. I'd won I won like $25,000 in an event one time, and I was leading going to the final day. And it felt honestly exactly like that. It was the first time that I had won an event on a larger scale. It was my first professional win. And I remember that morning thinking, oh my gosh, like I like can barely breathe almost, not literally, obviously, but one of those things where I was feeling the pressure, and this was very similar to that.
So you finished T5 well inside the number. You're in the good. Knowing where you finish when you hole out, you're in. 2 questions. What was your first thought after you holed out, and who was your first call?
I think when I holed out, the first thing I saw the ball go in the hole, and I was so relieved. That last hole, I don't know if you guys have been down there. It's not easy. It was blowing hard. It was just a tough day. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, I kept thinking of how I'm going to react if I didn't qualify. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm in. And I was so excited. And, it's been 12 years of when the US Open had happened, where I lost in the playoff, and it was kind of just, I was excited, obviously relieved. I felt like the weight was kind of lifted off my shoulders a little bit. I turned to my wife when I made the putt, and kind of was like, we did it, because she played a huge role in that as well. And I saw my kids there. They were on the green. It's the first time they've ever seen me play in a tournament, was last week. And going back to the first phone call, we signed the scorecard. I had to do a couple things with an interview, and we had to go inside the clubhouse. I actually had to be there for about 2 hours after I'd finished for some obligations that we needed to do for the PGA. And I remember waiting there, and my phone was absolutely blowing up. And I eventually, I guess to answer your question, Steve, I called my parents for my first phone call. They were there earlier in the week. They were there for rounds 1 and 2. And they were going to drive back to, they were in Atlanta. They were going to drive back down to Florida for round 4, but they were so worried. They said I played well round 3, and they weren't there. So they thought, we don't want to ruin the mojo. And there was maybe something to that, like as I joked with them about it. But so they didn't make it back. But yeah, they were my first phone call, and I mean, it was neat just because my wife and kids were there, and they would have been the first call had they not been. But it was really neat because my dad, as I mentioned before, my dad's a golf nut. My mom was obviously, she's my biggest supporter, and it was really neat to kind of share that moment with them.
Awesome.
So, Ryan, I got to ask, since you talked before that you lived in Charlotte before, so being at Quail Hollow, and this has been kind of a goal of yours, first part of this question, have you played Quail Hollow before?
I have. I played one time. It's really hard to get onto, as I learned. But I had a friend that knew the head pro that helped me get on one year, and I played, and it was about maybe 50 degrees the day that I played. But I remember it was in February. Everything was kind of brown, but I just remember playing it, and it blew me away. I didn't want the day to end. It was awesome. The course was incredible. I think the ball may go a little further when I play next week versus when it was 50 degrees. Because it was actually 50 degrees and windy the day I played, so it's probably cooler. But I just remember loving the course. It was probably, I'd probably put it in my top 10 for sure that I've ever played.
Nice. So you also mentioned that you and your wife used to live there, and your wife was caddying for you last week. Will your wife be on the bag at Quail Hollow?
She will not be in the bag for Quail Hollow. Before the PGA Professional Tournament last week, it was about 2 weeks ago, I pretended that I got an email from Ping. Ping helps support me and everything, but I pretended I got an email, and I pretended that I was reading it. I had nothing on my screen. It was dark, but she didn't know this. And I said, "Oh my gosh, they want me to bring a staff bag to the PGA Professional Tournament down in Port St. Lucie." And she looked at me like, "You got to be kidding me." And I was like, I'm messing with you. I was like, I'm not bringing a staff bag down there. I mean, it was 90 degrees. I can't imagine, her carrying this bag. But I'm actually still working on the caddy thing. I've had a teammate of mine that played on tour that played Quail Hollow for the Wells Fargo. He couldn't do it. One of my other best friends I thought was maybe going to be able to do it. He couldn't do it. I'm kind of working on something now. I think I'm actually maybe going to try to go with a Quail Hollow caddy, just to kind of have some knowledge and everything. But that's kind of a work in progress as we speak.
Well, you got 3 guys who have caddied before here, so if you need anything last week, just let us know.
There's a couple tour caddy. There's 2 tour caddy bibs behind me. I'm just going to point that out there.
Well, if we get near that parking lot, I may be pointing to the car, similar.
I was the one hitting golf balls. I'm a way better caddy than I am player.
Yeah,
we all are. Let's be honest with you.
We all are.
Yeah.
So, you've talked about how your dad is collecting things. We're big baseball guys. Bull Durham, sat there, is a classic. Crash Davis, Kevin Costner is talking about being in the show and hitting white baseballs for practice. What's the one thing you're looking forward to about playing in the PGA Championship? And there's your dad asked for any memorabilia from you yourself, from your person that he wants to hang on his wall.
There's things here and there where he's like, "Oh, I got to put this," and he calls it his clubhouse. He's like, "I got to put this in my clubhouse," and all that. And there's just some things that are non-negotiable. I'm like, "There's no way this is leaving my house or anything like that." I'd say what I'm looking for the most, being back in Charlotte, I can't wait, but I think just the atmosphere, I think I'm really looking forward to it, but at the same time, I'm really nervous about it too. Cause this is so different than what I'm used to. I work full time, and here I am going to be playing, and there's going to be thousands of people there. And, obviously they're not going to be following our group, but in the grandstands and things like that, there's going to be so many people. And I just think just the atmosphere, playing a course that I love, it's going to be incredible shape. I'm just really looking forward to just getting back to, a town that I call home.
So, I have to tell you, I actually turned down the Today ticket for Saturday up there. A friend of ours has tickets, and I have to coach my youngest's, championship soccer game that weekend. And so I wish I could be there on that Saturday, because I would definitely come find you. I will tell you that. But 2 years ago, Michael Block, obviously everybody knows the story, lived the ultimate dream. When you think about it, not even make the cut, played great. Ended up on the leaderboard. Played with his hero Rory McIlroy on the last day. He had a chance to do the unthinkable and win the PGA Championship. There were a lot of things that had to happen, but he had a chance. When you think about it, and you think about what going out there in that same chance, what would a dream Sunday look like for you?
You know, I'm going in with the mindset of I get my confidence from preparation, and I want to go in there and play well. And you know, whatever happens. I don't want to go in there and play poorly. I want to go in there and play solid and see what I can do. I remember, you know, when I Monday qualified for the John Deere Classic in 2014, I remember sitting or thinking to myself after the event, I missed the cut, and thinking to myself, like, that was not as difficult as I thought. It was. I just made so many mistakes. And, you know, I shot 74, and I made a triple on probably the easiest hole in the course the first day, and I made 2 doubles the second day. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you just can't do this at this level, number one. And you know, I just want to go into next week playing solid, and I'm doing everything I can to try to prepare and be ready for that. I mean, obviously the environment, the atmosphere is something I just can't really prepare for at the moment. But you know, I want to go up there or go down there and you know, just play the golf that I know of. And you know, if I can make it to the weekend, it would be. I mean, it's a dream come true to be there. It would get even better if I was able to you know, make the weekend. I have some friends that that I used to play with professionally that are now in the PGA that have made the cut and have done okay there. And you know, seeing them do that tells me that you can do it. But I think the thing is like I got to get out of my own way next week, and I need to, you know, be focused. And it's going to be a tough environment, but you know, if I can play well and just see what happens, and you know, I'm not one of those guys where I say like I'm going to be at the tournament and I'm going to win. I mean, I have to be realistic. I work full time, and but at the same time, I know that I'm capable of playing good golf when I'm clicking, and I guess all that I ask for myself is that I play solid, make good decisions, and don't make those same mistakes that I made like at the John Deere Classic.
Awesome.
So before we wrap up here, I mean, I want to bring this kind of full circle. Is how does it feel from going in 2013 to being the second alternate to now coming full circle, not only qualifying for the PGA Championship, but qualifying for it at a place that you used to call home? How satisfying is that now in going into this week?
You know, Greg, it's hard to even put into words. It's every day since the tournament last week, I wake up and I have to remind myself, oh my gosh, I qualified to play in the PGA. I mean, it's literally a dream come true. And you know, I've watched the replay of the coverage since I've been home of the final day on the Golf Channel of last week. And you know, I watch, you know, it's interesting watching it from, you know, the other side of it. But I can't even express how much this means to me. I mean, it's been 12 long years of thinking I'll never probably do like being a major. And for me as a kid or growing up after college, or, you know, in my playing days or whatever, I thought that maybe my window had closed. And, you know, to be sitting here right now saying that I'm playing in a major, much less Quail Hollow. I mean, I literally 2 years ago had this on my radar. And when I joined the PGA, I knew that the PGA was at Quail Hollow. And I told my wife, I said, I'm going to get my PGA work done so I have a chance to play at Quail Hollow. And I mean, you can say it, but to actually do it, like in qualify, I mean, it's a lot of things have to add up. And I sit here and I'm so grateful. I'm pinching myself to this day, and or you know, at this minute. And you know, it's literally a dream come true. I mean, for a kid that, you know, grew up and had aspirations to play professionally, I was fortunate enough to do that, and I always wanted to play at a PGA Tour event. And you know, I played in one, but it meant a lot to me to qualify for that. and now to add a major, it's something that I'll never forget, obviously. And last week was magical. It was, I didn't care how I did it, or if I finished second, 20th, whatever it may be. I'm so incredibly lucky to be in this position, and I'm so fortunate, and can't wait to play, because it's literally, I mean, I know that next week I'll be reminding myself that this is a dream, and I'm going to try to soak in every minute of it.
Well, Ryan, I know that we'll be watching you and rooting along the way. So one thing I want to say is, you don't have to answer this now, but I know we'd love to have you back after you play and just hear about what the whole experience was like, because this story you have told tonight, Steve has just texted me, and we're all saying this. We've had goosebumps from this story, and we've loved this interview.
Yeah.
And now I am so pumped to watch you play. Just because I think that's going to be amazing. So,
well, thank you so much, guys, for having me. And of course, I'll come on and do whatever I can to help. And if you can escape and get down there, I can get some tickets for you, I'm sure. So I know it won't be Saturday, Steve, but it's
but hey, we want to see you play on the weekend. We want to see you live the dream.
Yeah,
well, we do. So.
Well, it would be awesome, and just to be there is something that I just it's hard. I don't even believe it sometimes. I really don't. I feel like I'm in a dream. I've had dreams at a younger age where I've won PGA Tour events, and I wake up and I literally am like bummed. I'm like, oh my gosh, this didn't happen, and like it like ruins my day. And like this seems like one of those where I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is actually real and it's happening. And for it to be in Charlotte, I mean, I can't even express, all the irony in it. And, I can't wait to get there. That's for sure.
Just keep that round 3 mindset that you had. Round 3 mindset.
That is right. Yep. That is
wake up tired every day.
If I yawn on the first tee, that's a good sign.
It's better to wake up tired than wake up like Tin Cup.
Yeah, that's true.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And we appreciate you joining us. Best of luck next week. We can't wait to watch. And we are really looking forward to next week now.
Well, thank you guys. It was great meeting you all. And, after the tournament, let me know, and I'd love to jump back on.
Oh, awesome. Definitely.
Cheers, sir.
Thank you.
Cheers, Ryan.
All right.
Cheers,
thanks,
Ryan.
guys.
Have fun. Hit them well.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Wow. Man.
Wow.
We all have been there. We all have had that. Like, Dave, you asked the question about when we were kids. Like, we've all been on the putting green being like, this is the putt to win the PGA Championship. This is the putt to win the U.S. Open. And I've said since we've been doing this show that I've always loved the PGA Championship for these kind of stories, for these professionals that get to play in this, that teach the game of golf, pass on the game of golf, grow the game, as we love to talk about here. And to hear him talk about being a dad, having his kids there, and all the things that we talk about on the show, I cannot wait to watch Ryan tee it off this week, because no matter how he does, it's going to be amazing to watch.
I did take a quick moment there, and I wasn't going to bring it up, but I did try and take a quick peek at Odds with Dave to see who was listed for the PGA Championship. Right now, there are no odds that far out, at least for Ryan right now.
Well, we'll talk about it next week. So
we'll talk about it next week.
Yeah.
Hey, I think you know what we should do next week? We do a duck race every week for every major to see who picks first for the pick'em. I think we need to do a duck race, and we also need to pick it'll be the duck race to pick Ryan as the top finishing PGA, and we should get points for that too. Top finishing PGA member.
I think we just all get points. We get points for how well he does. All of us. We split it. So.
Yeah,
I like that idea too.
Yeah.
All right, let's once again, thanks, Ryan, and we look forward to having you back here to talk about how it was. So,
yeah.
All right, let's get into Smack of the Week.
So, one of us on this panel has played St. Andrews, right, Greg? Yep.
Greg's walked it.
I'm going to just put this out here this week, Smack of the Week, is almost like if you finally get a chance to play Harbortown and miss the 18th fairway.
Let it go.
Can't.
Yeah, I feel for that guy. That is just
And I'm just going to say this: his friends probably will not let him live that down.
Oh no, they won't let him live that down.
No.
Like that is the story they were talking about the rest of that round, and then at the pub afterwards. So
correct.
Yes.
So
we have all been there. All right,
last call.
winner, chicken dinner. Scotty got me a win last week, so I get first pick this week.
Yes, you do.
And Steve, you're going to be here at this event this week.
I am. I will be there on Thursday. Pretty excited about that too. I actually fly out tomorrow morning, so I will be in Philadelphia. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm having a cheesesteak while I'm there, which is very disappointing.
I'm pretty sure they'll probably have it at the course. Like that'll probably be one of the things that you
I would hope so.
So
I would hope so.
Yeah, a cheesesteak and a lager, and everybody's pretty happy.
Yep.
I mean,
it's a tour, so Mick Ultra. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
I love that this is at the
Philadelphia Cricket Club hosting this week, unlike normally Quail Hollow. Great golf course. I'm excited, actually, honestly, to see the golf course. I know they've hosted it here before. I'm honestly excited to walk around a very historic golf course with a ton of history.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a great course. Now, like Dave and I both, I've never been out to this course there, but it's supposed to be a beautiful course. So, all right, so, well, let's get into odds with Dave with this. So. I will say, got to use my Nikon rangefinder again last Friday, and God, I love this thing. I just love how quickly it stabilizes and then grabs the flag or grabs whatever you're shooting at.
Official rangefinder of the Golfing Dads Tavern and the LPGA Tour.
Yes.
So coming into this week,
Scotty's
Rory's back this week.
No, Scotty's not playing this week.
Scotty's not playing this week. Yeah. Rory's the favorite right now at 4-1. Colin Morikawa with the new caddy on the bag at 14-1. Xander at 16. JT at 16. Ludwig at 16. Cantley at 20. Victor at 25. Tommy Fleetwood still trying for his first win on American soil at 25. With Jordan Spieth, Hideki, Russell Henley, and Corey Connors at 30. And Rory's playing partner, Shane Lowry, at 35. Greg with the wind. Should I just write you down for Rory?
No, I'm not taking Rory this week.
Okay.
Because I think he's to be honest, I think he's a good pick this week. I think he'll do well, but I think he's going to be more focused on next week. So I think he's going to overlook this week. I think it's going to be like when college football teams overlook the easy win for the big game they have the following week. So, I mean, with that, I picked the guy to get his first win last week on the season, and he was the main guy last year, the guy who was on his coattails last year, and is the reigning PGA champion. Give me Xander.
Wow, I think it's a little early to take Xander coming off his back injury. But okay, Dave, you're next because you didn't make a cut last week.
Rory.
You can have Rory. Safe cut, safe pick.
Yep. Give me a backdoor top 10. And I like JT. I like JT this week.
I do too.
But I think the same thing plays with JT that Greg, you were saying about Rory. I think for him, it's going to be about next week. Him and Jordan at the PGA, because Jordan is just that short of his Grand Slam.
I think that Xander, like I said, I think Xander's using this to kind of get himself back because of the back injury, that he's going to try to get himself, because he's been playing well over the last few weeks, and I like where he's headed.
Yeah, I had Colin Morikawa written down for myself, and then you changed your pick, so I had to go and change the spreadsheet.
So I was going to pick Colin Morikawa because of the caddy change, but then I realized that caddy wins on the second week.
Yes.
On the bag.
Yeah.
Just saying. So
you
might have my pick for next week.
Pick the following
might have my pick for next week. So
I'm going to. It might surprise some of you. I'm going to take Colin Morikawa.
Yeah. Oh, surprise!
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, with that, great show. Looking forward to this tournament this week outside of Philadelphia, and then definitely looking forward to watching Ryan next week.
Yes.
So, Ryan, thank you again.
Yes,
everyone. Cheers!
You,
great show.
Till then, we'll see you next week.
I'm really fortunate, man. I mean,